Yes, hi, hello, all. I was hoping for more people, but this is the first of our open days. I know that we are doing this in a rather challenging environment. So welcome. I will try to give you an idea of what it would be to study electronic engineering at Brunel. I will go through the choices that you have, and I will accept the challenge of doing this within 20 minutes because it usually takes more than an hour. So electronic engineering. I'm a very passionate engineer. I usually get my hands slapped by the university when I say that engineers, I consider them to be a better class of students. And I shouldn't be saying that while being recorded, but I really feel like that. The reason I'm saying this is that engineers in general are problem solvers. They have trained their mind into problem solving. That's why they can find a job in anywhere. It doesn't have to be engineering. You would see that some of our graduates, for example, they find work in city doing banking and financing and managerial positions because they have trained their mind into being problem solvers. And this is a trend. This is something that you have for the rest of your life. And it's important because you will use this knowledge, you will use this process into anything in your life, financial problems, family, emotional problems, health problems. You will approach it in a way that, okay, I did that. I've done a lot more challenging things. I will accept the challenge as well. So you've made the right choice. I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't really matter if you go electronic engineering, computer systems engineering, or any other kind of engineering. They're all wonderful things. They challenge you. They're not easy. They're most likely the hardest thing that you can study, with the exception of, I think, medicine and a few other things. It is truly very challenging. You will set out to do something and you will fail again and again and again. But when you get there, when you do what you were supposed, well, when you what you wanted to do, the feeling is unparalleled. You feel passionate and fulfilled, and I still feel that. I'm 50 years old. I've been teaching at Brunel for the last 20 years, and I still jump up and down along with my students when something, it's very challenging works. And I will show you a few examples of that later on. Now, can we go to the next slide? Now, why would you want to come to Brunel? There's a million reasons. I'll just say a few, and I've listed many more. I don't want to just go and reiterate what's in the slide. We have an excellent reputation in industry. Industry loves us. That's why our students are most likely in the first three positions, many years the very first, on finding jobs immediately after they graduate. Industry knows us. We combine both the theory and the practical aspects of that, and they want to get our graduates because they know that our graduates will have a balanced knowledge. We have wonderful, wonderful labs. I will see that a video is being attached after the slides, a small presentation, about 10 minutes of our labs. We have 4 floors of labs, 6 to 8 labs each floor. We have the ground floors as well. Overall, about 80 labs just in the engineering department. Anything from electronics to broadcasting, from flight simulator to materials, from motion capture to digital graphics, from computer systems engineering to all sorts of labs, and they're all at your disposal. As far as I know, we are the most well-equipped university around London, at least. All our courses are IET credited, which is an important thing to know. And we have wonderful facilities for you to use. Now, I'm going to go through some of your choices, explaining the courses, whether you're going to do it as PEng or MEng, and I'll say a few things about the possibility of you applying for placement, which is an important thing, as quickly as I can, and then I will finish off with the entry criteria. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, the two programs, this is your first choice. We have two main programs, electronic and electrical engineering, along with some flavors, some variations of that, and computer systems engineering. I will explain each of these separately, and you make up your mind which one is more suitable to you. Now, starting with the electronic engineering, next slide, please, and its flavors, you can see that we have electronic engineering with artificial intelligence, with computer systems, with communication systems, and with energy systems. Now, electronic engineering is the traditional hands-on hardware mostly type of degrees, type of course. So what you would be doing there, next slide please, would you be doing, it would be things like, oh, sorry, and the one after that, no, I think I deleted it. Go previous slide, sorry. You would be doing mostly hardware-based things like controllers and communications and hardware and analog electronics and digital electronics and mostly hardware. Now, after you graduate, you would see that the jobs that many of our graduates get would be computer engineering and electronic development and technologies and something in the industry of electronic engineering. Now, this is what 2/3 of our students prefer. The remaining 1/3 goes for computer systems engineering, and many people don't know what that is, so I'm going to spend a couple of more minutes describing this. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, computer systems engineering sits between electronic engineering and computer science. So basically it has hardware and software, and it balances between the two. Now you're going to say, well, why do we do that? Well, if you think about it, most of our devices today, especially the smart devices, need software to run. And I believe that long gone the days that you only needed to know either software or hardware. And software, you would have become a computer scientist. Hardware, you would have become an electronic engineer. Nowadays, the industry asks for smarter embedded systems, means a combination of hardware and software. I'll give you an example. I usually give this example. Well, it's a preferable example that you would want to travel from Heathrow. So you have printed off your boarding pass and you go to Heathrow and you touch your boarding pass on the scanner and the gates open. For this to have happened, it needs a lot of steps. It needs some kind of code recognition, a scanner, some kind of motherboard, communications, computer networks, security, confidentiality, some servo mechanisms to open the door, a database to compare your name with the nominal passengers on that plane, etc. You can see I've named lots of hardware and software, and you need to combine these to get your end product. Same thing for your smart TV, for your car, for your mobile phone, for whatever you have in your house, and it's a modern device. So this is what computer systems engineering do. They sit between software and hardware. And if I can have the next slide, you would see that the jobs that are being taken by our graduates include not just hardware. You can see you have software engineer and software developer and computer engineer again. You can see both hardware and software jobs, which is great. So computer systems engineer is a very interesting course that sits between hardware and software, and it's mostly dedicated to those of you who just don't only like hardware, but they are good in programming as well, so they can build systems. I consider it to be slightly more difficult than electronic engineering, but at the same time you double your chances of finding a job afterwards because you can bid for a job in both hardware industry and software industry. Next slide, please. Right. So a few things to notice, though. While electronic engineering belongs in, is one of the courses that you can have a common first year, meaning that if you choose electronic engineering, you have a common first year with all other engineers. That means mechanical, aerospace, chemical, motorsport, civil engineers. And if within the first year you like another discipline, another engineering discipline better, we can move you to that other course. So it leaves you a bit of time to make up your mind. I'm saying this because I get this question as an admission tutor. I get this question often by some of my students, and they say, well, I'm in between this course and this course, engineering courses, and I cannot make up my mind. Both of them have advantages and disadvantages. And I tell them, don't worry. First of all, you cannot go wrong with engineering. It doesn't mean that if you study, for example, electronic engineering, you cannot work as a mechanical engineer in the future. Not at all. I've changed lots of disciplines in my life. As long as you're an engineer, it's like a proof that you can handle anything. And that's the beauty of it. Now, so in electronic, if you choose electronic engineering, we give you the option of changing a course if you want to do that. And we call this common year one. So in the common year one, you can see that apart from the foundation, in common year one, everybody does practically the same things. This is not the case for computer systems engineers. Computer systems engineers are not being given this choice, mostly because computer systems engineers are already multidisciplinary. They've got electronic engineering, computer science, so you're already spread out. We shouldn't and we couldn't spread you more. So that's your first option. Am I going to go for electronic engineering or computer systems engineering? I'll be happy to explain things more. There are videos that I present on the internet, and I will attach them as well on the differences between the two. Can I have the next slide, please? The next slide is just a few lessons of what we're going to be doing, what you're going to be taught in year one. And as I said, apart from one module, all the others are commonly shared, commonly taught with all other disciplines. But we will get there. There's nothing for you to worry about at this stage. Next slide, please. Right. Now, in year two, you can see the differentiation between the electronic engineering and the computer systems engineering. You can see that electronic engineering, again, focus more on the hardware. You see things like communication systems, digital systems, sustainability, electronic systems, systems and signals and systems, microcontrollers. While in computer systems engineering, because they need to build systems, they have some of the hardware stuff, but they also have data network services and security, computer architecture and interfacing between different technologies and different systems, digital system design, sensors and automation, object-oriented programming, and a bit more programming there. So you can appreciate the difference between the two. Next slide, please. And as the years progress, this will be even more pronounced. Now in year three, your final year, first of all, you will have your final year project, which is almost half of your, makes up almost half of your grade. But you would have some modules that you would have to take, especially in electronic engineering, depending on the specialization that you've chosen, and some modules that are optional. At the end of the day, you will have to make 120 credits either way. So depending on which modules you will get, you have to, these have to add up to 120 credits. Next slide, please. Now, the final year project, as I said, is an important piece of work. Now, we do give out lists of possible final year projects, but more than half of the projects are suggested by students. You might come to us and you might say, we have a friend who works in a company and they have this problem and I would love to work with that and make a project out of it. And as long as we would verify that there's ample engineering challenge in that project, we're very happy for you to run with it and us to supervise you. Now, I don't think I will have enough time to, I'll just mention a few at the end. Some of the projects that we're running regularly here at Brunel as a third year. But I usually say that to my students that my wish is for you to run blue sky projects, meaning as open and challenging as possible. Yes, they would be difficult. Yes, some students, many students might have started with something and they wouldn't be able to finish it because it's engineering. It is challenging. I told you that in the beginning. If you want something safer, being recorded now, I don't want to say because then I'm going to badmouth other disciplines in the university. But I feel very passionate about engineering. I feel that this is the best course at any university, not just our university. Next slide, please. Now, I also told you that you would have a choice between BEng and MEng. You would already know the differences between the two. And MEng is a course that has an extra year and a master's degree level included in it. So instead of the BEng being 3 years, the MEng is 4 years. And you graduate with a master's degree. You can have an MEng course in the electronic engineering. If you want to do an MEng course in computer systems engineering, you have to finish your BEng and then get into an MSc, which will end up being the same thing at the end. So second choice is whether you want to go BEng or MEng. You can change your mind on that within the first 2 years. You have to tell us at the end of the second year if you want to change your mind. Next slide, please. And yes, mode of studies. Last thing your last choice would be whether you want to do this with placement or not. Now, for me, placement is an absolutely fantastic opportunity. Not only because usually we get the first, second, or third prize in being the best university that offers placements around UK, and you can check that, but because it's a fantastic opportunity. It's a win-win-win situation. In placement, you do an extra year, inserted between year 2 and 3, where we would find you a job in the best companies in the sector, and I truly mean that. And companies actually come to us and they ask again and again for our students. You will get paid for this duration of time, anything between 15 to 25K, and because it spans in 2 tax years, you actually get this tax-free, so you get all the money. Secondly, and most importantly, you get experience. So at the end of your degree, not only you would have had a degree from Brunel, but you would already have a 1 year's worth of experience, which is perfect. You will be 22 or something, and you will be graduate from Brunel with a year's worth of experience. This is the best case scenario, the perfect scenario for any employer. This is what they're looking for. C, you will see how the real industry works. And this is very important because students that come back to us to finish their third year, they have been through placement, they're much more mature, and they're team players, they respect the deadlines, they are a lot better students. Another reason is that many times if you like the company and the company likes you, about a third of the times they will offer you this job, so you have a job lined up before you even graduate. And some companies, if they really like you, have gone into the trouble of paying for your third year tuition, if you're good, just to reserve you before you even graduate, which is a good thing. So, but most of all, and by the way, you're not paying us for that year. You're actually only paying us £1,000, which is the cost of us drafting the contracts and visiting you at least twice. So basically, effectively, you're not paying for that. You're not paying us anything. So this is a perfect opportunity. So it is a choice whether you want to do this with professional development, with placement, that is, or with sandwich course. They all mean the same thing, or not. My personal suggestion, and believe me, there's a lot of logistics involved for the university, but we do this to help you. My suggestion is absolutely go for placement. If you can, absolutely go for placement. So 3 choices so far: electronic engineering or computer systems engineering, BEng or MEng, and with or without placement or professional development, as we call it. It's your choices. Next slide, please. I think we're going to skip a few slides because I'm running out of time. Now, entry requirements, you can see them here. In next year, we will be looking at ABB for A levels and for BEng, for electronic engineering, and BBB for computer systems engineering. D-Star DD for both of them for BTECs. Of course, there would be clearing. Of course, we would look at each case separately. Of course, if you have more additional experience, we will take this into consideration. So each case is being examined separately. And I think we have a last slide or close to slide. Well, this is very trivial. We have a student-centered approach. We have peer group learning. Let's go to the next slide. And we have teaching and learning. Again, you will have all the support you need. Most importantly, we have a job shop. You can find a part-time job here. We have a CV clinic. We have a placement shop. We have a dedicated team of people, very skilled people, trying to find you a job either as you're studying or after you study. Next slide, please. We have our own society, Brunel Robotics Society. Absolutely fantastic students, which I would strongly suggest that you join. Next slide, please. And a few of our projects that we run at the with some of our students. Next slide. We every year, well, not last year, we sent a mission into space to do some scientific experiments. Very difficult thing. Next slide as well. Very difficult thing. It requires a lot of logistics, a lot of communication. We have achieved, we've sent 6 missions into near space. We've retrieved 5 of them, 1 failed. Keep that in mind. I told you in the beginning, engineering is a very challenging course. You might fail, but when you actually succeed, the feeling is unparalleled. I truly mean that. Next slide, please. And you can, well, hopefully if we are in a more preferable situation at the end of May, you can see our Brunel Engineers showcase. You can see them on YouTube as well. Next slide. And finally, I think I kind of made that, make it in time. I think I've used only 20 minutes. If any have any questions, I would love to answer them.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We do have
I was passionate enough.
Yes, thank you. We do have a few questions. First and foremost, you spoke about the placements. Are all students guaranteed a placement?
Right. Now, I'm not allowed to say yes, but so far, practically every student that wanted to have a placement, we got them a placement. So it's not guaranteed. And I'll tell you what, there are 2 things. First of all, one, in the placement, we can find you a job, we can get you in touch with a job, but you will go through an interview. You will have to build your CV. You will go through an interview. You will have to convince them. We cannot force them to take you. Meaning that you will have to develop your skills. You will have to have the grades in all years. You will have to be a good student and a good candidate. If I was an employer and I was looking for a student placement and I had 10 students, I would choose the best. So try to be at your best, including your studies, your grades, your attitudes towards your studies. So if you do that, it's almost guaranteed that you will always find a placement, and a good placement, that is.
Thank you.
Now, and another thing, some students choose not to because they give me this excuse saying, I want to graduate as soon as possible. I just want to do 3 years. Why would I extend this to 4 years? I want to graduate as soon as possible. And I ask them, and then do what? short of your father having a factory and being very rich, you would probably have to look for a job. What I'm suggesting is that we are going to do that for you anyway, and you will get paid for that. So there's really no reason to hurry up to finish your studies. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much for that. We do have another question here for you. What's the main difference between electronic engineering degree and the computer systems engineering?
I did spend a few minutes in the beginning, and you can see the video that's already been recorded, and I will include the link that I described this. But generally, electronic engineers focus mostly on hardware. It's a more traditional course. Computer systems engineering is a newer course that is sitting between hardware and software. So you need to know, you will be taught both in order for you to build embedded systems, or in other words, smart systems, all the systems that we have today. I would strongly suggest that you look into both of these. Most people would just have the phrase electronic engineering in their minds, and they would go for that because that's what they heard. Learn more about computer systems engineering. I consider it more challenging and better fit for future.
Thank you very much. Another question here for you. For the computer systems engineering, how many hours are spent, independent learning?
Oh, so you mean outside the normal hours of teaching? We say that for every lesson, which is it's between an hour or two, you will have to study another 12 hours. Sometimes this is not realistic. Look, I'll be practical. I'll give you a practical answer. This will develop throughout the years. It's not electronic engineering in general is not a course that will leave you. I mean, how should I put it delicately? I see other courses, students from other courses, living a much easier life than engineers. But this is what you have been. I mean, if you want to do that, if you have this knack for being an engineer, you cannot avoid it anyway. So you will spend a lot of time studying. It is challenging. You will need to study. If it all comes down to time management and making some sort of a program of your daily activities. If you do that, and we will teach you how to do that, you will see that you will have your lessons, you will have your studies, and plenty of personal time to do whatever you want. So I would say that apart from your lessons, I would say that an average of 2 to 4 hours every day of study, just at the top of my head, it depends on the year and the modules.
Brilliant, thank you. On the final here question, you mentioned a little bit about the society, the Brunel Engineer Society. Can you talk a little bit about them and what it is that they do?
The Brunel Robotics Society is comprised of these guys. I'm really saddened that I wasn't able to give you a lab tour and so you can meet them firsthand. These guys are such brilliant students that they've created a society of their own. And they are so good that we gave them a big room full of toys. And when I say toys, I mean controllers, computers, instruments, everything. A brilliant lab. And we don't set foot in there. I mean, lecturers and professors don't set foot in there. We're not kind of allowed to. It's their space. And whenever I go there, I mean, it's embarrassing for me to admit, but students are so excited about what they've built, and they're building some fantastic things, rockets that go into space, and robots, and communication systems and sensoring systems. And they explain to me within a minute or two what they're doing. And they say, for example, oh, this is a robot, and we build it like this and this, and it uses this Python and that program. And I usually nod my head like I understand, and many times I don't, because they have become so good. They're fantastic students that I don't even get what they're doing. They're brilliant. So I strongly suggest that you join this society. Wonderful society, full of very exciting students. And this is, we're not going to force you to do that, but it's in your best interest because you will have more access to more wonderful equipment.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of this presentation. If you have any more questions for Dr. Konstantinos, please head over to the live feeds chat and you can ask some more questions there. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Bye-bye.